Look, it's no secret I'm pretty woke, and it's no secret I have an empty house, and it's no secret that I'm a multi-millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. Some guy called me out last video, said, you're not a billionaire. You're right, I'm a trillionaire. So, as the number one of those on YouTube, I have a fascination with nothingness. So, of course, a currency that's based on, well, nothing, that gets my rocks going. So, of course, recently I bought a lot of Bitcoin. I actually bought a very large amount at about 4,000. Of course, that's doing pretty well right now, but we'll see how that goes. But the reason why I wanted to make this video is to explain the strategy behind that and also show you my far bigger investment that I'm just insanely reckless with, and more so help you understand how I look at risk, because it's helped me turn $6,000 since I left the Air Force many, many years ago into tens and tens of millions of dollars of sales online. And so overall, if you look at my track record of turning money into more money, I'd say it's pretty at least decent. It's not the best in the world, but it's not the winning dog on the track, but it's not that one that's missing a leg that's running around, with a top hat on for shits and giggles. It's definitely not that level. And at the end of this video, I'm going to cover my prediction with Bitcoins and the whole logic behind that and what I'm doing there and kind of my investment principles. But in the middle of this video, I'm going to be covering something that's way more important. If you don't understand this, I don't think you really have a chance in hell of turning any amount of money into a greater sum of money, because you're always going to miss the opportunities that are right in front of you. So if you don't have 5 minutes to listen to this, it's going to cost you a lot more than the time of the 5 minutes that you're spending right now. So I'd listen. And your impatience is probably why you're never going to really hit the numbers that you want to hit in your life. So also, I'm trying something new on this video. Look, throughout all my videos going forward, there's going to be what I like to call the Easter egg email. And this is going to be shown in each video using a bunch of clues. It could be a text that's just drawn on the mirror or the windows below me. It could be a combination of images that you see. It could be hidden in the description. It's going to be sitting somewhere in the video. It could be arrangement of pens in a certain way that form out a word. You're going to have to look for it. It could be my browser. And it's going to form a word, or it's going to be a word, or it's going to be a combination of words that the images add up to at a Gmail address. It's going to be at gmail.com. So it's going to be a word at gmail.com always. And here's what's going to happen. If you email this Gmail, I'm going to send you $2,000 worth of courses that I've created in the past. You're going to get a lot of free stuff. But here's the cool thing. The first person to figure this out 5 times across my next videos, or 5 times in total, I'm going to give you $1,000. Just straight to your PayPal address, and I'll let you know when it is. And if anybody is getting it 2 or 3 times, I'm going to put a leaderboard up in the videos. I'm going to try to do something like that. This is still kind of unformulated, but this is how it's going to work. I'm also going to put the rules in the description of the video, but here's basically how it's work. I'm not going to mislead you. I'm not going to try and do things that mess you up or give you the wrong thing. And the words will be very clear. It's not going to be left up to random impossible guess combinations. So if you see images or words in a certain order, they'll always be in that order. And that's it. May the odds ever be in your favor. Let's discuss. First and foremost, this is never going to be an investing channel. I just want to make that very clear. We're not going into Bitcoin investments. I want to explain why I'm investing here in a second. It's not going to be some crypto analysis. It's a very simple reason. And one of the key reasons is that I've always been very, very okay with risk, because I don't think a lot of things I do are risky. And that's because of how I view it. And if you don't view it like this, you're constantly going to make the wrong decision, in my opinion. So when I was in the military and I got out, I had saved up about $6,000 over 4 years. That's about $150, $200 a month over that long period of time. Something that basically anybody can do. But getting out and taking that $6,000 and betting that, hey, you can start a business in this 6-month time frame, that was pretty much the riskiest thing I've ever done from a risk perspective. I mean, that's jumping off a cliff without a parachute and then trying to make one on the way down. And since then, that $6,000 has led to me at least doing at least $30 million in sales online over the last decade or so. That's not all done in a one brunt sum, and I'm not going to go make up internet marketer numbers. It's over a long period of time. However, the reason why I was able to take that risk so easily is you have to understand this. This is my key to everything. And my biggest investment, and I'm just reckless with, I don't even care, is my business. And is it because my businesses always get an ROI? No, not exactly that. It's because I'm super confident in myself. Well, yes, but the more important thing is that you have to understand and view things as short-term risk and chronic risk. And chronic risk is by far more dangerous to you. That's what's going to kill you. See, if you get knocked out in the short term, let's say you make an investment in a business, let's say you make an investment in the stock market, let's say you make an investment in Bitcoin. I think actually investing in Bitcoin in the stock market is way more risky than investing in yourself. But long story short, let's say you come to a risk. And in the short term, this risk could be very painful. It could make you lose a lot. But in the long term, it could have huge, huge benefits. See, what's going to happen to you and what most people do is they avoid these risks like the plague. They will not take short-term risk ever, but they accept chronic risk like it's no big deal. And what a chronic risk is this. Let's imagine if I was in the Air Force, I didn't take that short-term risk, but over the decade following, I kept sort of hedging my bets and sort of getting in the business and just sort of not taking a risk, not taking a dive somewhere. Well, what would have happened? Well, I would be 32 years old, probably making, I don't know, $40,000 a year and really full of regret at not taking that risk way back then. That's absolute zero right there. We want to talk about risk where you have something to lose. Well, I view the ultimate loss when it comes to risk when you're at a point where you cannot come back. You are done. You're checked out. If when I was 22 years old, when I was 23 years old, I took that $6,000 and I lost all of it, worst case scenario, I'm just going to have to go and get a job. I'm going to have to go get a job working as a bartender or something, and I'm going to have to live very cheaply, and I'm just going to have to come back from that. But that would only take me like 6 months. The ultimate failure of that short-term risk has a short-term pain to it. And so what happens over time, if you're avoiding short-term risk in your life, you're actually building up to that ultimate failure. All you're doing is delaying the actual zero. You're going to get there. By never taking risk and not taking risk consistently, you're basically ensuring that you're going to lose in the end. And so when I look at things, I don't look at the short-term risk. I look at the chronic risk and what avoiding risks like this my entire life will have in the long run. Now, am I going out there and recklessly investing in things? No. Am I going out there and throwing all my money in one pot at a time? Actually, sometimes in my business, yes. Because you're going to have to take those risks. You're going to have to take those swings when you're at bat, because if you're always holding the bat and looking for a bunt, you're never going to hit a home run. And short term, swinging for a home run as much as you can, when it makes sense, when you see an opportunity, it's going to result in some downs. It's going to result in some downs. Over a long period of time, how luck and how chance works, and just how time works in general, if you're taking those home run swings, you only need to hit one home run. You don't need to hit 5 home runs. You don't need to consistently hit home runs. You only need to hit 1 or 2, and you're really good. And when you look at the chance of you ending up in ultimate failure over time, the person who's swinging at more home runs is going to avoid that ultimate failure, or at least look back if every single home run missed and say, you know what, I swung for the fences. The person who didn't swing, who accepted slow building chronic risk, like smoking cigarettes every single day, that's what you're doing in terms of risk, they're going to die of heart problems. They're going to die. They're going to hit that ultimate failure. And they're going to look back at 50, 60 years old after never taking a home run, and you are done at that point. You're checked out. You don't have any more risk to spare. And so that's how I look at risk. You see, what most people do their entire life is they live a hedged life. There's this thing they really want to do, but they're always waiting for that permission to go do that thing. They're always waiting for that. I'm going to build this company first, and then I'm going to do the thing I really want to do. I'm going to work this job for a certain amount of time, and then I'm really going to do the thing I want to do. And what happens when you live that hedged life is you never succeed at either thing. In fact, you just succeed in locking yourself in the thing you don't actually want to do. Because if you go take the dive and go all in on something, the chance you're going to have success with it now, combined with the amount of time that you have, the amount of time that is gained by just going into it now, greatly increases your odds of succeeding over here. But by going and playing a little bit over here and playing a little bit over here, you ensure that you just stay way over here. And am I saying, hey, quit your job completely to go start a business, or quit the business you're working on to go build this business? No, but there are ways to slowly plan your move now and just start on it right now. For example, I always wanted to really build a tracking and analytics company. Tracking has always been a major problem for me. It's always annoyed me in my business, and nothing ever solved the problems. And for the longest time, I just kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off. And there was a point with my last SaaS company that I said, it's time to do this. It's time to do this. And that's how Hyros was made, and it's doing very well right now. And that's what I want to work on, and I'm just all in on it. But even more so, as Hyros was building up, when it got to the point where I could transition fully into it, I had to turn off a lot of things that were making me income. I had to stop a lot of things. And I said, what do I want to do? What is best over 10 years? Where's the best way to remove chronic risk? And so what I did is I shut off these things that were making me money. I just said, I'm going all in over here because I don't want to get locked in over here. And so I went all in higher. And that's when things really have started to pop off lately. And people look at risk like you're rolling a dice when you're making these decisions. And so when I got out of the military, I had started my business, but then I also got a job working at a marketing agency to also kind of give me a pillow, something to fall back on if things were not working out, for lack of better words. The thing is, in almost all my businesses, the denominator behind it actually blowing up is the point where I actually go all in. My business stayed really stable and kind of plateaued until the point where I just quit the marketing agency job, where I says, I can't do this anymore. That month, my income doubled. It wasn't because of chance. It wasn't because of odds. It was because I stopped hedging my bets and playing it safe and accepting chronic risk. And I just went all in on it. Now, could the business have collapsed right then? Yes. Yes, it could have. Of course. What would I have done then? Probably just have gone and gotten another marketing agency job. I was very good at what I was doing. I was very good at SEO at the time. I was focused on mastery of that skill. So, of course, I was always able to generate money with that skill because I focused on mastery first, like I talked about in the last video right here. But if you look at it in the long term, imagine what the risk would have been if I'd, again, hedged my bets, stayed in that marketing job, and never gone all in. Within 1 month, it changed everything. And within that year, I had my first $1 million year. If I delayed that and stayed in the marketing job and constantly hedged my bets and accepted chronic risk, wouldn't have happened. And so that's how I view everything. That's how I view all my businesses. And that's how I view risk. And it's worked very well for me. And the one biggest benefit to all this is even if, let's say, my view right here doesn't work, when I'm 60, 70 years old, I can look back and say, I took my swings. I took my swings and I did the best I can. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But what I would not be fine with is looking back at 60, 70 and saying, man, you had all these swings and you never swung the bat. And I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that too much. I want to keep working harder and being even more accepting of certain risk. So I can even look back and say, man, you really swung. You went for the fences every single time, and I can be proud of that. But I'm working my way up to that. So those are my views on that. But what I want to talk about now is kind of my Bitcoin investment and the thoughts behind that. And what I'm going to tell you at the end of this video when it comes to my Bitcoin investment is by far the most important lesson when it comes to that. So let's get one thing straight. I'm not a crypto analyst. This is not going to be a crypto channel. I'm never going to be talking about investing. I don't think about investing to the extent that you see other channels like Graham's channel or other crypto channels. It's never going to be like that. The reason why I invested in Bitcoin is very, very, very simple. So first off, it has to do with my view of Bitcoin. And honestly, it's based on what a lot of really smart people in the tech industry who I've talked to believe. I personally believe Bitcoin is going to be used as a form of wealth storage. If it succeeds, it could also just crash and be nothing. And I think there's a good chance it could be nothing. And so you guys might be wondering what's my opinion on that. I don't think it's ever going to be used for transactions. I don't think it's ever going to be used as a form of money. I think it's going to be used as a way to store money. Kind of similar to gold. And honestly, right now, with all the crashes that are going on, it's staying semi-stable. So I think people are going to start thinking that same way too. That's what I think. And because I think that, what I know is true is that when the blood is running in the streets, that's when you should be buying things. You shouldn't be buying things when things in the market are good. You shouldn't be buying things when other people feel that it's good. That's why when the original whole Bitcoin craze and cryptocurrency craze was going on, I stayed away from it like the plague. Okay? The time to get in cryptocurrency was when no one was talking about it. And with this latest crash and the recession going on, human emotions going all over the place, and blood is definitely running in the street. And so it's time to deploy capital. Okay, it's just simply time to deploy capital. It's time to take some risk because the risks are in your favor. The risks are in your favor. Now, am I saying this investment will completely pay off? I don't know. I plan to hold on to it for a very long time because I believe it can hit a much, much higher level simply because as more people view it as wealth storage, that it will grow. Now, there's going to be so many people in the comment section that wildly disagree with me or agree with me or whatever. I don't care what you think. I just don't care. And I'm totally willing to take the risk. That's the point here. Everybody wants to, last video when I mentioned it, everyone was like, oh, it's going to crash. You're an idiot. You're giving this wrong advice. You're giving this. I'm giving you zero advice. I am completely okay with the risk of it hitting zero. I'm not investing more than I can lose. I'm completely accepting that. Okay. I just think over time, if I'm looking at chronic risk, there is way more to gain here than if this was reduced to zero. Okay, I'm fine. It's like I'm really fucking fine. But if it blows up, that's where I'm looking at. That's how I'm looking at that. Now, the next reason why I invested in it is the same reason why I do a lot of things when it comes to deploying money. I don't bet on numbers. I bet on human emotion. When I am spending money on ads, when I'm designing businesses, I don't look at numbers when I'm growing things. Of course, the numbers are a sign of what's going on, but numbers are a sign of human emotion and how humans are reacting to things. They're not numbers for the sake of numbers. So one place that I've had a lot of success in just is like random almost side business is sports gambling. I don't really talk about this. I'm never going to talk about it, but I've turned a 4-figure sum into a very, very large 5-figure sum just fucking around. And the main goal behind it, I'm never going to talk about it past this video because I don't think people should do it, is I bet against human emotion. And I don't think you should apply this. I'm just telling you what I think about things. This is not advice. This is not advice. This is not good advice. This is not great advice. This is just how I view things. And you shouldn't take it to heart like I think some of my business advice. But humans are really bad at correlating things to things. If you want to look at a much better explanation of this, I'd look at Anti-Fragile and the Black Swan. And so when a human is looking at a 50-50 decision, their view that things are going to go well is almost always incorrect because they're not able to make the correlations on the underside and see the true things and where it could go bad. So, for example, if a person's looking at an investment where it grows 5% every single year super stably, they're going to assume just because for the last 10 years it's grown stably, that's a sign that it's going to continue to grow stably. And so the percentages, or let's say the spread on how their decision is working is going to be flawed because they don't actually see the underlying risk behind a lot of things or the underlying chance for growth in a lot of things because the correlations and how our brain works just doesn't view it like that. And I found, particularly when it comes to sports betting, that if you can recognize that and view how people are viewing things, then you're going to be able to work with spreads and make it work for you. And so honestly, that's just my thoughts. It could go completely the wrong way. And I don't make money sports betting. I don't make it as like a career or something like that. I just have been pretty good at it, and I'll leave it at that. That's my same viewpoint on Bitcoin. When I saw it crashing and I saw everybody saying that Bitcoin's going to crash, it's over, I literally just looked at that and said, hey, I think this is the time to get in because one, I think it's going to be set as wealth storage. And two, I think human emotion is completely wrong in this instance right there. The Bitcoin is moving just with human emotion and not its actual value. And human emotion is what determines the price of a lot of different things. Human emotion is what determines people to move in on things. One of the reasons why my businesses are able to be successful is I'm able to recognize human emotion and human thoughts. I don't play off of numbers. And so that's one of the reasons why I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go and invest in this right now because I think it's going to do this. I think human emotion is wrong right now, and I'm willing to accept the risk if I'm wrong in this instance. And honestly, just to put my bet in simple words, because that's all it is. It's just a bet. This is not investment advice. I think right now Bitcoin crashed because human emotion is going downward. The economy is going down. People think there's going to be a depression. Human emotion is sending everything going downward. And I saw at this point right here, I think it's going to go back up. I think it's going to go back up. And I think it's going to be somewhat stable. And if it does go back up, and if it remains stable, what people are going to start doing is saying, oh man, in a time of crisis, this is a good place to keep money. So it's going to be viewed as a form of wealth storage. And at this point, people will say there's a use for Bitcoin. It doesn't have a use yet, not a consistent use. And if it stays stable, I think it's going to skyrocket. I think it's going to skyrocket because then human emotion is going to see it as something that's legitimate finally at this point. And it's really been waiting for that. This is a very, very simple bet. It's just betting on what people are going to think. And I think there is a stronger chance that it will go back up and remain stable than there is a chance that it will go to absolute zero. And so if it does go right here, I think there's a very strong chance people will think this. And so that's my thoughts on it. We'll see how it turns out. Do not copy me. Don't take this as advice. But overall, looking at human emotion, I think the upside is potentially huge, and the downside, it really isn't that bad. And I think worst case scenario, I can accept the worst case scenario, but the upside is so much greater than the worst case. So that's my thoughts. And the biggest key to all of this, now that you understand my thoughts, and this again is not investing advice. Do not go and say, because Alex Becker thinks this way, this is good. I'm not a good investor. I'm not an experienced investor. This is purely gut stuff and purely like, let's see what kind of happens, me putting it on red kind of thing. But the key to all of this, the key to being able to get past chronic risk and accept short-term risk is this. It's to be in a position where you have an unlosable position. One of my biggest problems with my previous lifestyle is that I had something to lose, okay? I had a giant multi-million-dollar house. I had a $400,000 Lamborghini. And with all those things comes all sorts of other expenses and things. And at one point, I realized those things in my life bring me absolutely no happiness. And what actually brings me happiness is being able to take those short-term risks without fear. Because that's what leads me down the path to bringing me most happiness. Being able to work on the businesses I want to work on without having to worry about the short term. Basically, if I can put this in better words, not having to worry about the short term makes me super happy because then I can always focus on the long term. And the long term things are always the things that are going to bring the most happiness. The businesses you really want to work in, those risks that you really want to take. You can only really take those consistently, go after those consistently if you don't have a losing position. And so right now, my life, with the amount of money that I've saved up, I'm basically retired. If you can look at my minimalism videos that are right here, and one of the biggest reasons why I went super minimalistic is so that I have nothing to lose. My life is paid for. I don't have nice things. I don't have lots of things. I just have this desk and a bed in this apartment. And in order to sustain that, it takes very, very, very little effort. And even if I lost everything, even if I went and invested 75% of my net worth in the Bitcoin, and it all exploded, I'm just fine. With my business, I don't need my business to make money forever. I can just focus on building something great and building up the valuation of the company. And that's a really long-term risk. That's a really, and over the short term, that's very, very bad, but I don't have to worry about the short term. And so that's the key. If I could give you any investment advice, I would not listen to anything I've said in this video in terms of investing in cryptocurrency or what, maybe the stuff when I talk about business, I'd listen to that. But if I could give you any investment advice, it's have a unlosable position. Be able to take swings and haymakers without being able to get punched back. And then you can take tons of haymakers. And those haymakers, just because of how chance works over time, a few of them are going to land. And the way that risk works as well is you can go way up. The peak on how far you can go is unlimited. It can be infinite. But the bottom, as long as you're smart about it and you're not taking out debt, okay, you're not putting yourself in debt, you're not putting yourself in a place where you can go downwards, it's always kind of capped at a certain amount of loss. And so you can go up, you can go down, you can go up, you can go down. And if you're always taking risk, you can eventually be way, 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 way up. Okay? You can never go way, 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 way down as long as you understand how to hedge your bets accordingly. So it's way in your favor to constantly be going and setting yourself to get way, 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 way up. As long as you don't have a losable position. As long as your losable position, your ultimate loss position is the point where you're just fine, then you're going to be fine. And so you always want to know what that you always want to know what that minimum position is, and then go from there. So that's my advice, guys. A lot of people are going to be asking me about general stuff, and I don't think my investing advice is very good or relevant, or you should listen to it, but I do think my views on short-term and chronic risk, unlosable positions, and how to actually view risk over time, I think that's the key to absolutely everything. It's been the key for me. If you like videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm looking at the numbers right now, and about 50% of people that watch this channel, you're not subscribed. Fix that. Because again, I run ads specifically only to my subscribers who like and view my videos that just give away a ton of stuff. And the only way you can view those, and I only spend a very little bit amount of money on those, but the only way you can view those ads if you're liked and subscribed. On top of that, you won't see when I go and do live streams, and that's where I just give away the farm and business tactics. You won't see those things unless you're subscribed. So don't be on that 50%. On top of that, after this video, there's going to be a ton of links to exactly how I built my business with advertising, exactly how I go and do minimalism to have those exactly my views behind minimalism and how I kind of pull it off. It's not actually hard, but why I basically give away everything and own nothing as a millionaire. There's a video explaining that. There's even a video explaining how to do a dopamine detox, and there's even going to be a link to a video on how to do a dopamine detox, what I think is one of the things that's helping the most in 2020. So check those out, and I'll see you whenever I feel like talking to you again, all right? It might be a week, it might be 2 months. I think I'm going to quit again, so we'll see.